Okay, Felix is finally starting to grow on me. He's finally starting to grow on me. I've had my issues in the past with him. I feel like he's just a plot point. He's not really a good fleshed out character. His personality doesn't really kind of interest me at all. But this episode, he was very cool. He was very chill. I like him playing into the whole troublemaker thing, you know, how he handled her, seeing that she's uncomfortable and sort of putting up a barrier for her so that she doesn't feel uncomfortable. That kind of stuff was really awesome. Even though he did end up bringing her to an adult hostess club. That was the one negative. He did get her cute little outfit, though. But yeah, that part was like the only bad part about him in this episode. But yes, overall, episode 12, really enjoyed this episode. I think it's really cool to show how Monica herself is, again, continuously progressing and getting out there. This is a character that is very closed off and doesn't really socialize people. Seeing how she's kind of taking the initiative in a lot of cases in this episode. And yes, a very clippable episode. This episode was very, very clippable. Tons of goofy little Monica moments that I absolutely adored. But let's get in the episode proper, opening up with Isabel. Oh my gosh, I swear this girl has no luck with wanting to hang out with Monica. Hey, let's go to the festival. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, that sucks. Let's go to another festival. Oh, that's great. And then literally Monica goes to the festival. Mark my words, Isabel's going to end up getting caught up in this whole incident with the magic item, and Monica's going to save her. And then that's going to reveal that she actually went to the thing, and she's going to have to apologize and all this kind of stuff. But anyways, cute outfit. Again, Isabel in that outfit was just super freaking cute, but it did give a little bit of context as to the festival itself. This is a festival that this group does, which basically kind of is a send-off to the dead. The doors open, the Lord of the Underground comes out, and they celebrate, and then afterwards they ring the bell in order to send them off. And that's important because we eventually actually go to that festival. And it does sort of get into Monica herself in the fact that later on when she does hear the bells, it does bring to question for her the idea of being able to sort of send somebody off, which sort of to me implies that she did not get the ability to send off her father, that her father was taken from her abruptly, possibly. She says the bells are beautiful, but also somber. How many people get to have a proper goodbye with their loved ones? And then she says father, which again kind of implies to me that it was abrupt. That it was not something where, yeah, it was he was ill and she got to sit there at his side and send him off. That kind of stuff. Maybe he was taken away and then found out later that he died, or possibly he was attacked when she wasn't there. Something like that. It sucks. But anyways, Monica cannot go to the festival because she has to go meet with the Starseer, which we get a scene with Monica, Luis, and Mary Harvey, which Mary Harvey is the actual Starseer. Find out that, yes, she's the only one besides Monica that is female that is in the Seven Sages, and that additionally she is seemingly the eldest of them, which is, yes, a little bit more questionable, the idea that it seems like she really likes the company of young boys. Which she even says later on at some point that if Luis was younger, 15 years younger, she would peck him on the cheek. Girl, seriously. But there's a few things that are kind of curious here with Mary herself. It seems that because of her reading capability, she's a star reader, because of her capability and her unparalleled abilities, she has earned the deepest trust of the throne itself, thus putting her in the position of leading the Seven Sages Council. So I guess whatever, meetings the Seven Sages have, and it does explain why she was the one that was at the recruitment things as well. It does seem like she's put in sort of charge of the Seven Sages. But she does express to Monica that she wants to deepen the relationship between the Seven Sages, wants to get to know Monica even more, as they are the only women in the Seven Sages. It's not that I question Mary and her motives, but it is curious that she has so much desire to bring them into a group. And again, that is partly probably because the throne themselves, the kingdom's rulership, wants her to actually keep them in check. Which, yes, Monica points out that she doesn't visit often. She points out that Luis and Emmanuel just sit there and argue about nothing. Raul just eats vegetables. Bradford enjoys a nap, and Ray attends less often than Monica, which I would assume that Monica probably is only gone once, so that's pretty bad. Anyways, that's when they bring up the seal for the magic item that apparently needs to be used for this festival, that apparently performing magecraft as an offering is something that they do on a regular basis, and apparently he's not going to go to the festival itself and wants Monica to go, because apparently he's drained after having to remove this seal. This is interesting because they get into the magic item itself and the idea that this is something that they have personalities. The magic items themselves apparently have personalities. They have minds of their own. And apparently with this magic item, if it was owned by a male, it would kill them. Which that leads me to believe this guy that we see eventually steal this thing, he's toast. He's probably toast. It's going to probably go haywire. And then, like I said before, Isabel's probably going to get caught up in it, and Monica's going to have to save her. The other thing they talk about here is Mary thanks Monica for helping her with the charts that they have. So I'm assuming they do a lot of, charting of the stars themselves, and they compile all that data, and apparently Monica's been helping them with it. And there's one of them that Monica brings up about 10 years ago, and apparently it was something that was a reading of Felix himself, to read his stars. And this goes back to our first actual showing of Mary and the idea that Felix was one person that she wasn't able to read. Specifically that he has a future or a destiny, a fate, that is unreadable. Which again brings up the whole concern for his future. My whole assumption with that situation is it's probably involving something like a catastrophe with magic. That I can see something where an involvement of magic would probably throw somebody's fate off if it's something that is a large amount. I would kind of be curious if Monica's presence there now would sort of alleviate that, but either way, that's the big concern they're having right now. Even Luis himself is talking about how, yes, this is very concerning. I have that assassin that showed up during the whole chess thing, and I'm going to freaking do horrible things to him to find out any information that I can. But he's also said that something about him is concerning. I would assume that's probably because of the kingdom that he said that he was involved with. Or it could be the idea that he was using some sort of body manipulation magic. Anyways, Rin shows up. Says some inappropriate something. You enjoying the lavish festivities? Please don't say that in front of my wife. Oh, well, I'll tell him that you enjoyed a bunch of drinks in front of young women. I'm going to have to recorrect you. Rin and him are just dorky together. Anyways, Monica goes with Rin to the festival. We get to see the merchant very briefly, and he talks about how he apparently was the one that drew the emblem on the cart that eventually infiltrated the academy. He goes, damn it, I forgot to draw the tail. I was wondering about that. I'm like, how did you get that wrong? Like, that just seemed like they were going out of their way to screw up, because how could you get an emblem that big wrong? But yeah, Monica immediately sees the golden ratio that is the prince. She breaks right there, goes rushing after him, gets caught up in the crowd, completely loses it. The merchant guy finds her, ends up helping her out until eventually they run into the bell. Again, getting the idea that it seems like her father didn't have a proper send-off, and that seems to be bugging her a little bit. But yes, eventually Felix finds her. Felix finds her. I love this. He's like, what are you doing here? Oh, actually, I have a secret. I knew she wasn't going to tell him that she's his bodyguard. I just knew that wasn't going to be the case, but still plays it off on some idea that she's a troublemaker. And I'm just enjoying the nightlife alone. You traveled all the way here by yourself? I'm a troublemaker. All right, let's be troublemakers together. It was dorky. It was dorky. Yeah, obviously her purpose here is to make sure to follow him because she didn't intend for him to be there and not have a bodyguard. But there's one thing that I am kind of curious about with this exchange. He eventually tells her to call him Ike. Again, his name is Felix, and he wants her to call him Ike. There's a side of me that kind of wonders, is there a possibility that Felix isn't his actual name? Maybe the reason that they're not able to read him properly or see what his fate is because he's maybe adopted or possibly was the child of a concubine or something like that. There's my kind of curiosity. If Felix isn't his real name, maybe possibly the real Felix died and he was brought in to replace that prince. That's sort of my conclusion that I'm kind of drawing right now. But that would imply that you have to have a name in order to do any sort of reading of somebody, which would seem kind of odd. I think they typically go based on the moment that they were born, ? I don't know, it depends on how they do it in this particular world. But that sort of stuck out to me, the fact that he wanted to be called Ike. I'm like, why Ike? What is Ike? Now, yes, an answer there could be that it's his cover name that he typically uses because he goes undercover a lot. But it seemed like when he went to the whole adult hostess club, it seemed like they weren't too afraid of noting who he is. But yes, when they go there, completely flusters Monica. Are you a clucking chicken? The little noises that she's making is just so funny. But yeah, they go back to see Cassandra. And yes, Monica ends up getting drug off. Apparently they assume that she's going to be sold off, so they dress her up completely inappropriately. But no, we have a little meeting between Felix and Cassandra, and that Cassandra has collected a bunch of letters from individuals that are opposed to Duke Clockford. They're dissatisfied with Duke Clockford. Now, I sort of see this going two different directions with these letters. Again, they're letters specifically that were brought from them, people that come there regularly that he has met with. So Felix himself is meeting with people that are dissatisfied with Duke Clockford. Now, yes, you can see it as possibly Felix is trying to win them over to Duke Clockford and thus, increase his influence. But they've implied before that Duke Clockford is very respected and very much so powerful. Why would he need to win these people over? Duke Clockford already has what he needs. This leads me to believe that Felix is possibly trying to get people that will ally with him against Duke Clockford eventually. Because that's my assumption. My assumption has always been everybody hates Duke Clockford. And if Felix is supposed to be our main guy, the guy that eventually Monica is going to side with, the assumption there, I mean, he could end up being a bad guy. Felix is going to be working with Duke Clockford and allowing himself to be used by him until eventually he gets enough power, and then he'll overthrow Duke Clockford. Opposite to what a lot of people believe that Felix is going to be, which is a puppet of him, he's not going to be a puppet. He's going to allow himself to be used until eventually he can stand up on his own 2 feet. So he could be looking for allies to go against Duke Clockford, which is very risky, by the way. Very risky. I mean, essentially any one of these individuals could actually rat Felix out. Now, there is a side of it that they don't want to do that because they don't like Duke Clockford, but still. But yeah, Felix ends up clarifying why he brought Monica. Get her a cute little outfit. Everybody calls her a squirrel. She thought that she was horse ears, and I'm like, I guess they could be horse ears, but they're all, nope, it's definitely a squirrel. You're definitely a little squirrel. I love this whole scene after this, though, because, again, it's Monica and Felix alone, sort of like a date situation. They go by this one little merchant. The merchant's selling a bunch of accessories. Monica immediately knows that this stuff is all useless, except for one that has a protection charm on it. Apparently was something that was created by one of the 7 sages, which is the Gem Mage Manual. Immediately, Monica realizes that it looks similar to the one that Cyril is wearing, and she thinks that it has the same etching, which is curious there, that Cyril would have a position, or I would assume probably enough money within the family that he is, that, yes, Emmanuel had made that one. But no, the reason why I love this scene is, of course, Felix trying to get Monica something. He wants to give her a gift, but she's trying to express to him that a lot of these things don't matter to me. She plays it off eventually saying, look, I'm getting into fashion, but I'm not ready for amulets. Yeah, I'm not a pro that I can have a collection of amulets yet. But in actuality, what she's expressing that she feels she doesn't have the words for is completely understandable. The idea that the things that she cherishes is the things that are in that drawer. These are oddities that most would open that drawer and think it's junk. They're important to her because they're like these first moments with people, these special moments that she's had with people, and thus they're important to her. You remember the day that we first met? Yeah, you dropped the nuts. Yeah, when you picked those up, that was special to me. That was important to me. Those are the things that she keeps. I didn't see them in the drawer, but apparently she has a thing of nuts down there. This is the moment that Felix did something nice for her. Normally, most people would either be put off by her nature, or they would just ignore her, or something like that. But Felix chose to pick them up one by one and hand them to her. It was special. It's a little goofy, but for her, it's special, and that's why it makes sense to me. But I like that he acknowledged that. It seems like he does pick up on what she's saying. That's why he decides, well, let's just go get one of these things, the little traditional snacks that you split between 2 people during these festivals. It was cute. And she proceeds to eat it like a squirrel. She proceeds to eat it like a squirrel. But yes, the other cool part here, and again, another big plus for Felix, is acknowledging that she's nervous. He picks up the crumb off her cheek, and she looks very nervous, and so he kind of creates a barrier for her. Do people make you nervous? He's obviously acknowledging that she's nervous. In her head, she's thinking, crap, here I go, messing up again. Somebody's being nice to me, and I'm completely screwing it up. But he creates the barrier in saying, think of me as a ghost. This big festival is about the ghost being drawn by the festivities, and eventually they ring the bell, and they all leave. Think of me as a ghost. Your friend Ike is a ghost. He doesn't exist, so he can't hurt you. He's assuming that she has some sort of trauma, and that she's afraid of him. Don't worry, I can't hurt you. I'm a ghost. That'll make you feel more comfortable. I love it. I thought it was a little sweet thing that he did for her. And then Rin ruins the entire situation by showing up and saying, is this a don't lay a hand on my woman situation? No, I'm guarding the prince. It seemed to imply that, or at least the way that she responded that Rin doesn't know who the prince is. Now, yes, you could chop it up as the idea that nobody seems to recognize him because he has a mask on. The only reason that Monica acknowledged who he was is because she knows the golden ratio. She knows based on his body type. Everybody else is thrown off by the mask. That couldn't possibly be him. It's like a tuxedo mask situation. He puts the little mask on and suddenly everybody's like, oh, where'd the prince go? So it could be the fact that he's wearing the mask that she doesn't recognize him, but I'm kind of curious. I would assume that she's seen the prince by now. But yeah, that's when they get the message from the Star Seer Witch that, yeah, the amulet's gone. The magic item has been stolen. That dude's dead. Like I said, that dude's totally dead. And again, I think it's going to go wild. Isabel's going to get sucked up in the situation. They also brought up at some point during the episode that the magic item itself can be used for offensive magic. It can draw the mana equal to 2 to 3 cities worth, and it could be used in offensive magic, which makes you kind of wonder if there's a possibility that somebody go crazy or that something bad will happen, or maybe possibly that she has to expel the mana and thus she's going to create some sort of offensive spell to just get rid of the mana itself. I'll be curious. But it makes me kind of curious how they're going to have the finale. Yes, next week is going to be the finale. I did see that they made an announcement that that episode will be delayed by 1 day, presumably because the slot that it was in, now that it has delayed 1 episode and it's going into the fall season, that slot is being taken up by a new show for the fall season, and thus they have to delay it by 24 hours. So I'll be here on the following day to do my coverage on that. I'll definitely be covering it. And hopefully we'll get an announcement for another season. I really hope so. I've been loving this show. I love Monica and her character and her development from being a shut-in, basically, to getting out there and enjoying new things in life. It's been sort of a discovery story that I've really enjoyed. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you hit the like button down below, if you like this content, you want to support the channel more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, y'all take care.